Next up, House Bill 1410, a bill to amend and reenact a variety of sections of the code, all relating to certain educational institutions, designation of governing boards, financial assistance, enrollment. Bill was reported to the Committee on Appropriations with a substitute on February 1st, and then the Committee on Appropriations also reported several days later with another substitute.
The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Albo.
Mr. Speaker, procedurally, I need to, I think, reject a bunch of things. So could I ask to reject the Appropriations Committee substitute of February 1st?
The question is on adoption of the committee substitute dated February 1st from the Committee on Appropriations. As many as favor that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. That substitute is rejected.
Speaker, I move the substitute from Appropriations Committee dated February 3rd.
Question is on adoption of the February 3rd substitute from the Committee on Appropriations. As many as favor adoption of that substitute will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That substitute is agreed to. The gentleman from Fairfax.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, one of the tricks you learn here is if you have a bill on uncontested, just to mumble through it, and no one will notice it, and then you get it engrossed and passed to its third reading. I know, you guys know. This bill has been amended significantly, and I wanted to maybe take a little bit of time and tell you what's going on with it. This bill originally did three things. The first is it changed the name of higher education boards of visitors to boards of trustees. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I felt a lot of boards of visitors forget that they have a responsibility to the people of Virginia and not to their club that's running the school. We changed that, and in this bill, it says that Board of Trustees are responsible to the Commonwealth, and then we add, and the people. And in part of the training to the boards of visitors, we say that they are supposed to be reminded that they are running the school for the citizens of Virginia. That's the easy part. The second part became very controversial. This is an issue that I found out that some schools were taking out-of-state money, tuition money, and giving it to out-of-state students. And you recall the gentleman from Fairfax and I got very upset about that last year because we always heard that the schools needed the out-of-state money to run the school. And now we find out that they're actually using the out-of-state money to give to other out-of-state students. And UVA was using 15% of their out-of-state money. The other thing I found out, which really set me off personally, was that the schools are using tuition from one student and transferring it for financial aid to another student. Now, that's a nice thing to do because some students don't have the money to go to school, but think about it. I saved up money when I was in my 30s every month for a Porsche 911. Why? Because every guy wants one. They all want to be like Danny Marshall. So I was here one day, and Diana Cantor was getting a center aisle presentation because she had started the Virginia Prepaid Tuition Program. And it's a very successful program, and we were honoring her. And I had just adopted my boy. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I should look into prepaid tuition. So I walked down the street to the 9th floor, to the 9th Street office building, saw Virginia Prepaid Tuition. And I went up there and I said, hey, how much for a 4-year contract? And they said $40,000. I went, oh my God, I can't afford that. How much for a 2-year contract? $20,000, which happened to exactly match the amount in my Porsche 911 savings account. So I basically donated my Porsche 911 to my kid. You know, sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do when you're a dad. But now I found out that I didn't really give $20,000 to my kid. I gave like $18,000 to my kid, and then they took, say, $2,000 and gave it to somebody else's kid. Now think about this. What about if you are a student and you're working to put yourself through college? You are paying your own tuition, and you're working at night where all your friends are out partying at the fraternities. You can't do that because you got to work all night. And then you find out that they took some of your tuition and they gave it to somebody else who wasn't working. So that really, it set me off. I got so angry about it. So in the bill, as originally filed, I said you can't do that anymore. Well, these schools came to me, and, I listened, and they had some good points. One of the points was that this is a thing that the General Assembly had authorized in the budget a number of years ago, and so they're not doing anything improper. Secondly, that they have programmed their budgets to do financial aid in this system. And then thirdly, the historically black colleges really need it. They would be in a huge crunch if they didn't have this kind of thing. So what we did with this was we struck my idea and we put into a study, and the study says that the schools will start looking at ways to wean themselves off this and going to look at national averages and other schools to find out what they do. So that shouldn't be too controversial. The third thing this does is controversial, and this is what the gentleman from Fairfax and I have been seeking is a 75% in-state level for all the schools, or a 25% out-of-state cap. This bill has been highly controversial, and I don't have to repeat the whole thing. But I went to talk to the gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox, and the gentleman from Suffolk, Mr. Jones, and I said, guys, can you help me out with this? All of us are sick of talking about this, right? So we got staff together, and we came up with, I think, is a really great outside-the-box thinking way to maybe move forward on this. And here's what the bill does. It says that any school who enrolls more than 30% out of state, they can do it if they want, but every student over that 30%, they have to take the profit on that tuition and use it to lower in-state tuition for the rest of the students, okay? So it's like a transfer. So let me give you an example. Let's just say that tuition for out-of-state student costs $24,000 and it costs $10,000 to educate that student. What this would say is if that student is one that goes over the 30% cap, $14,000 of that money has to be used for in-state tuition reduction, okay? I actually thought it's a great idea, and I wish I had thought of it. Now, I'm going to yield the floor to the gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Hugo, because when I talked to him about this bill, he caught a mistake that we made, and he has an explanation for an amendment, and I'm going to yield the floor to the gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Hugo.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And first, I'd like to thank the gentleman from Fairfax for all his work on this. And sometimes these bills, and I'll talk about this amendment, that what it does simply is Delegate Albo has indicated is saying that it's going to encourage, the original bill is going to encourage UVA and William & Mary to go up to at least 70% in state. But the way the original amendment bill was crafted, JMU, which has been the white knight, could have gone down from 75 to 70. Tech, which is at about 73, could have gone down to 70. So we'd have gone through all this machinations and really only added 200 students in state over the years. This amendment simply says Tech will stay where it is and JMU will stay where it is. They will go no lower. Now, I want to thank all the members who have worked on this. I want to thank the majority leader on this. I think what he said the other day is, when he spoke yesterday, it's a new era. And let's talk about the era. Delegate Albo and I have been doing this for a number of years, and we looked it up. And the fact of the matter is it takes a while to socialize some issues. We first introduced this bill in 2007 to go through this. And people, I've asked people come ask me, why do you keep doing this? You got to let it go. And the fact of the matter is we're not going to let it go for this reason. It impacts so many of these kids on costs and on in-state. And on the cost, I brought some kids down here from a alternative school last year, and Delegate Herring was nice enough to speak to them on. And these kids are so nice, but they're not on their second or third chance, they're on their eighth or ninth chance. And they don't have the money to go through school. In fact, one of them came to me the other day, said, when you were on the House floor, you promised me a scholarship if I go to school. Now, he only gave me 48 hours to give him a check. Wish he'd give me more heads up, but we sent him a check. Because for a lot of kids in my district, cost is not a problem, but for a lot of people it is. And the cost, if you look at the tuition The tuition in the last decade has gone up 4 times the CPI. And if you look, too, in our districts, we were there the other day, and I went through with some kids, and I went through a college prep class for my son. And all these kids are pretty well, they're good. They've got tutors, they've got prep classes, they're doing fine. And then I ran into a kid at the grocery store who's trying to get in. And he goes, you know, I don't have a prep class, and I don't have a tutor, but I got like a 4.2. I'm on the bubble. And that's why Dave Albo and I keep coming back year after year after year. It's for the kids that are on the bubble, the kids that don't have a tutor, the kids that don't have the prep class, for the kids, literally, they may have a single mom trying to work at home, or they may be trying to work to get themselves through school. This is important, and the colleges have never appreciated it. Delegate Albo and I have said over and over and over again, you can no longer be the University of New York, Williamsburg campus. It's time and it's over. The gentleman from Colonial Heights said it's a new era, and it is. And this year, I hope people notice, and I hope my college friends notice, we didn't just have Delegate Albo and Lemunyon and a couple others. This year, it was from all around the Commonwealth. It was Democrats, Republicans, from the beach, from Southwest, all over, Northern Virginia, House, Senate, because it is important to kids, rich, middle income, lower income. One of the guys that I respect the most here, because he'll tell you what's on his mind, is my friend from Virginia Beach, Barry Knight. He said it the best. He said what I wanted to say one time. He said, you know what, to one of the colleges, we appreciate what you're trying to do to be number one all the time, but we'd be really happy to be 2 or 3 if you'd let some more of our kids in and if you'd keep the prices reasonable. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate all the members' work on this, and I look forward to this bill being adopted and engrossed. Thank you.
Thank you.